From players ending up in awkward situations, to ridiculous golf shots you won't believe actually happened. These are the most unexpected one-in-a-million golf moments you'll ever see. And first we start with number 20. Golf is supposed to be a game of calm, poise, and patience. But at the 2022 US Open, Rory McIlroy reminded everyone that even the best can absolutely lose it. He was off to a great start at the country club in Brookline, playing smart, striking it clean, looking like a major contender. Then came the par 4 fifth hole. His tee shot landed in thick grass just outside a bunker, and Rory had no choice but to stand with one foot in the sand to play it. He took his stance, made the swing, and then everyone looked up, expecting the ball to fly. But it didn't. It had barely moved, just trickled a few yards forward from one patch of rough straight into the bunker. That's when Rory snapped. He marched in and took two angry, full-force swipes at the sand, pure, unfiltered rage. It was one of those moments every golfer has had, but rarely do we see it so raw from a pro, let alone Rory. But here's the twist: he didn't spiral. He settled down, stepped up to a brutal par putt, and drained it from 20 feet. Then he birdied the next two holes. McIlroy finished the round at 3 under and right in the hunt. It was a meltdown, a recovery, and proof that sometimes even rage can fuel greatness. Next up, number 19. You hear the phrase "play it as it lies" a lot in golf, but sometimes fate has a twisted sense of humor. At the 2025 PGA Championship, Max Homa was grinding his way through a tough final round at Quail Hollow. And then came the 18th hole. His drive leaked right into the trees, landing on a bed of pine straw. Nothing new there. It's the PGA Championship after all. But when Homa arrived at his ball, something was off. It wasn't just in the rough, it was nestled in what looked like a small circular divot in the straw. Turns out, a fan who later came forward on Instagram said, "I was sitting by the 18th fairway at Quail. I had made a little nest out of the pine straw so my transfusion drink didn't tip over on the slope. Max Homa's drive landed in my drink spot and he had a terrible lie for his second shot. The look on his face hurt my heart." The fan felt awful, but the damage was done. Homa's lie was brutal. No clean contact, no real shot. He did what he could, scrambled for bogey, and walked off shaking his head. It was one of those moments you can't make up. A cocktail cup holder turned hazard, only in golf. Which brings us to number 18. Most pros worry about bunkers, water, or maybe the occasional tree. But at the 2013 Volvo World Match Play Championship, Nicholas Kolserts found something far worse. And let me tell you, I bet you never saw this one coming. It happened during the quarterfinals at Thracian Cliffs in Bulgaria. Kolserts stepped up on the short par 4 10th hole and went for the green. Big swing, big drive, big misfire. His ball sailed offline, bounced past the green, and somehow ended up in a public restroom. Yes, next to the toilet. When officials arrived, they found the ball tucked neatly against the wall inside the bathroom. After a quick rules consult, Kolserts was granted relief. The nearest point? Also inside the bathroom. So there he was, taking a drop next to a toilet with the door open, cameras rolling, and the entire golf world laughing. Incredibly, he got up and down for par. But the match? He lost to Graham McDowell 2-1. Still, no one remembers the score. They remember the drive, the door, and the day Nicholas Kolserts officially made bathroom breaks part of golf history. Coming in at number 17. Sometimes the wildest moments in golf don't happen on the scorecard. They happen just off the fairway. It was the third round of the 2025 PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. Jon Rahm, one of the biggest names in the game, was locked in and chasing the leaders. But then came the 11th hole, and a swing he'd probably like to take back. His approach shot with an iron veered left, way left, and smacked straight into the head of a spectator standing greenside. You could literally hear the thud echo through the crowd. The crowd gasped. Rahm immediately walked over, clearly concerned. But the fan? He stood up, smiling, and somehow unfazed. Rahm shook his hand, gave him a hug, and slipped him a signed glove as an apology. Then he cracked a classic Rahm one-liner. If he grew up playing football, European football, maybe he'd have deflected it closer to the hole. As for the shot, the ball had ricocheted across the green and ended up on the opposite side in the rough. A mess of a lie, but a much better story. Rahm still finished the day with a 67. The fan got a souvenir and a headache, but hey, not everyone can say they took a Jon Rahm approach, shot to the skull, and walked away smiling. Let's move on to number 16. Some shots win championships, others change careers. And then there are the ones that just stop. At the 2025 WM Phoenix Open, 19-year-old amateur Luke Clanton was chasing history. One more point in the PGA Tour University Accelerated program, and he'd lock up a PGA Tour card before even turning pro. He just needed to make the cut. After a shaky start on Thursday, Clanton came out firing in round 2. 4 birdies on the back 9. The crowd was buzzing. Suddenly, he was in position, right on the number, with 3 holes left to play. Then came the par 5 15th. A 30-foot eagle putt, everything riding on it. He rolled it perfectly, dead center, tracking the whole way, and then it just stopped. Half an inch short. One more roll and he'd be a PGA Tour player. Instead, it stared back at him, balanced on the lip, motionless. The air left the stadium. Luke tapped it in for birdie, but the damage was done. A missed birdie chance at 18 sealed it. He missed the cut by 1 inch short of his dream. "I guess it's just not my time," he said afterward. "My time will come." But that putt, that's the kind of heartbreak that lives rent-free in your mind for years. Did you ever see a putt so cruel it looked like the hole spit it back out? At the 2000 PGA Tour qualifying school, Joe Daly wasn't just playing for pride, he was playing for his future. 6 grueling rounds, hundreds of players, and one mission: finish in the top 35 and earn your PGA Tour card. Daly had done everything right. He was in position, steady all week, one final round to seal the deal. Then came the 17th hole. He faced a routine putt just inside 5 feet, the kind every pro makes in their sleep. He stepped up, gave it a confident stroke, and watched it roll straight for the cup. But then, it hit the back edge, circled the rim, and lipped out. Not a miss, a robbery. It looked perfect. Everyone thought it was in. But the ball caught the edge just wrong, spun around, and popped out like the cup had rejected it. That single moment, one putt, was the difference. He missed qualifying by a single shot. Some said the cup might have been set improperly, others called it a freak bounce. Daly just called it devastating. He never earned a full PGA Tour card again, because sometimes golf doesn't just break your heart, it lets you watch as it rolls around the cup and falls the wrong way. And here we are at number 15. Well, there are dramatic celebrations, and then there's what happened at the 2023 RBC Canadian Open. It's the 4th playoff hole. Nick Taylor, trying to become the first Canadian to win the event in nearly 70 years, drains a ridiculous 73-foot eagle putt to seal the deal. The crowd erupts, the clubhouse explodes, and the Canadian players storm the green like they've just won the Stanley Cup. Then comes Adam Hadwin. Champagne bottle in hand, he sprints toward his countrymen to celebrate. No hat, no credential around his neck, just pure joy, ready to douse his friend in victory. Coming in, the security guard. Within seconds, Hadwin is on the ground, not slipping, not tripping, leveled. Taken out by a body check straight out of the NHL. The guard thought he was just some overexcited fan crashing the green, so he did what security guards do. He dropped him. Replay after replay showed Hadwin's stunned reaction as he hit the turf, champagne bottle in hand, tackled mid-celebration. It was unexpected, a little funny, and definitely inappropriate for a security guard to bring the NHL to a golf course. To his credit, Hadwin took it like a champ, no injuries, just a bruised ego and one of the most ridiculous viral clips in golf history. Up next, number 14. It was the final round at Live Golf Adelaide, and Kevin Na's team, the Ironheads, was in striking distance. One shot back, the kind of Sunday tension where every swing matters. And for most of the day, Na delivered. 6 birdies in 16 holes, clawing his way up the leaderboard. Then came the 9th, his final hole of the day. Na's tee shot found a deep sandy mess under the trees. His first escape attempt failed. His second hit a branch and came right back at him. And that's when things boiled over. Broadcast mics caught every word. "Seriously, this is fucking bullshit." His caddy tried to calm him down, breathe, reset, but the damage was already done. Na huffed, swapped clubs, and limped to a double bogey. Just like that, the Ironheads dropped from near the top to 6th place. Na's round still looked decent on paper, a 3 under 69. But that final hole became the headline. Profanity, frustration, all caught live on air. It wasn't just a meltdown, it was a full-on broadcast moment, raw, unfiltered, and very inappropriate for a mic'd-up Sunday finish. Coming in at number 13. We're at the 2023 FedEx St. Jude Championship, where Bryson wasn't taken down by a bad swing or a water hazard. He was taken down by a rope, a simple boundary rope, and somehow It turned into one of the most bizarre meltdowns of the year. It happened while Bryson was walking to his ball. A volunteer was holding the rope up so he could pass through. Standard stuff. But instead of ducking under, Bryson walked straight into it, and it snapped right into his face. His reaction? Immediate and loud. "Oh my God, what the f***, hey dude?" he shouted, staggering backward like he'd just been punched. Then, in full dramatic fashion, he dropped to one knee, clutching his eye in disbelief. His caddy rushed in front of him with a towel, trying to help, but Bryson wasn't having it. Without saying a word, he yanked the towel out of his caddy's hands like he was in the middle of a heavyweight fight, not a golf tournament. The fans nearby froze, unsure if they were witnessing a medical emergency or a bit of performance art. And it didn't stop there. Bryson paced, muttered, and looked around like someone owed him an apology. In reality, it was just a rope, one that every player had managed to avoid all week, except him. Now at number 12, you'd think the final round of the US Open would bring out the best in players. But for John Daly at Pinehurst number 2 in 1999, it brought out something else entirely. It was the par 4 8th at Pinehurst, and John Daly was already battling the course, and probably himself. He lined up his fourth shot from just off the back of the green, a tricky putt uphill. He hit it, and then watched in disbelief as the ball climbed the slope, lost steam, and slowly trickled all the way back to his feet. Brutal. But then it happened again. Same shot, same tragic return, like the ball was mocking him. And that's when Daly stopped playing golf and started making a statement. Instead of waiting for the ball to stop, he stepped forward and smacked it mid-roll, just whacked it like he was swatting a fly. The ball went flying back over the green into the fairway, and Daly calmly continued like nothing unusual had happened. Of course, the rules of golf didn't find it quite so poetic. Hitting a moving ball earns you a 2-stroke penalty. Add a chip and 2 putts after that, and Daly walked away with an 11 on a par 4. But here's where it gets even better. After the round, Daly said he did it on purpose, called it a protest against what he saw as unfair pin positions, said he was standing up for the other players. His playing partner, Tom Kite, offered a slightly different version. He lost his composure. Daly didn't stop there. He vowed never to play another US Open again, saying the tournament just wasn't his style of golf, which, to be fair, is one way of putting it. Which brings us to number 11. And let me tell you, you wouldn't expect it from Rory. Cool collected, one of the classiest players on tour. But when the pressure piles up, even the calmest player on tour has a breaking point. The first explosion came at the Open Championship in 2016. Rory was grinding at Royal Troon, trying to claw his way up the leaderboard on Saturday. But then came the 16th hole. He pulled out his 3-wood and absolutely nuked a shot into the right rough. Furious, he slammed the club into the ground, and the shaft snapped clean off. You'd think that'd be enough of a statement, right? Nope. Rory picked up the remains and, in one smooth motion, snapped the rest of it over his knee before tossing both halves into the rough like yesterday's garbage. The crowd didn't say a word. The cameras didn't miss a second. But Rory wasn't done with the drama. Fast forward to 2020 at the Zozo Championship. Different course, different moment, but the same fury. On the 18th hole, after a rough approach shot that came up short, Rory just snapped. Again. This time he jammed the club head into the turf, then ripped it across his thigh, snapping it in two like he was reenacting a golf version of the Hulk. Just like before, he finished the round a club short, and with a highlight reel moment that wasn't about a birdie or an eagle, but about a broken iron and a busted mood. 2 clubs, 2 tantrums. One very un-Rory-like streak of pure, televised rage. Here we are at number 10. It started off like any other US Open practice round. Sunny skies, pros dialed in, fans quietly trailing behind the ropes, watching their favorite players go through the motions at Torrey Pines. But then, on the 13th fairway, something strange started happening. Out of the corner of everyone's eye, a figure emerged. Not a player, not a volunteer, just a guy, moving with way too much confidence for someone without credentials. He stepped onto the fairway holding a golf club and 2 golf balls, decked out in shorts, a backwards visor, and a rainbow cape flapping behind him like he was about to tee off in his own superhero storyline. And then he did just that. He dropped both balls, took a couple of real full swings, and sent one shot soaring into the canyon beside the hole. Security rushed in, one on foot, another speeding in with a cart, but not before he had time for one last club twirl and a little dance. Eventually, they tackled him and escorted him off the course. It wasn't dangerous, just wildly inappropriate. One minute, fans were watching Bryson and Brooks prep for a major. The next, they were witnessing one of the most ridiculous auditions in golf history. Up next, number 9. Can you imagine this? It's the Masters, or maybe the US Open. The galleries are packed, the cameras are rolling, and Anthony Kim, golf's breakout star, is striding down the fairway like he owns the place. He's got the swagger, the talent, and the pressure of an entire sport, waiting for him to be the next big thing. But behind those sunglasses, total chaos. In 2025, Kim broke his silence after more than a decade in the dark, and what he revealed, it rewrote everything we thought we knew about those golden years. Turns out, while fans were watching him drop birdies and chase majors, Kim was making secret detours every few holes, into porta potties. Not because of nerves, because of addiction. He was using drugs and alcohol during the actual rounds, vomiting, regrouping, just trying to survive. Let that sink in. While the world was watching a young phenom chase golf's biggest prizes, he was barely holding his body together inside a plastic box behind the ropes. And it didn't stop there. Years later, when Kim reappeared on Live Golf in 2024, fans noticed something was off. His game was rusty, sure, but it was his face that really raised eyebrows, and the quiet rumors of past surgeries only added to the mystery. Coming in at number 8, it was a tense Saturday at the Valspar Championship, and Matt Wallace was grinding his way through Innisbrook's Copperhead course, one of the toughest tracks on tour. But what started as a routine recovery on the 18th hole turned into one of the most uncomfortable on-air blow-ups of the season. Wallace had driven his ball onto the cart path, a tricky lie but nothing catastrophic. He could have taken a free drop. Instead, he decided to play it off the pavement, bare steel against asphalt. The result? A clunky iron shot that came up nearly 30 yards short of the green. And that's when things got heated. Mike's caught Wallace stopping dead in his tracks, turning to his caddy Sam Bernard and snapping, "Shut the f*** up." Bernard, to his credit, stayed calm, gently suggesting that maybe a drop would have been the smarter play. But Wallace wasn't having it. He ripped off his glove, grabbed his club back, and started pacing like he'd just been sabotaged. The broadcast caught every second. Despite the outburst, Wallace managed to get up and down for par, but the par wasn't the headline. The blow-up was. Later, the two were seen hugging it out on the practice green, and Wallace admitted he overreacted. Still, for a tournament known more for ball striking than soap opera moments, this was pure primetime awkwardness. Number 7 brings us to the 2024 Live Golf event at JCB in England. Jon Rahm was closing in on something big, his first win since joining Live. The pressure was heavy, the crowd was rowdy, and by the time he reached the 16th hole, things were getting a little too loud. Rahm had just walked up near the green when it happened. A fan in the gallery, persistent and way too vocal, shouted something right as Rahm was setting up his pitch. Rahm paused, visibly irritated, and muttered, "Hey man," slapping his thigh in frustration. And then his caddy stepped in. Adam Hayes, normally cool and composed, didn't just whisper his disapproval. He turned and fired back at the heckler, clear as day on the broadcast mics. "Yeah, it's gobbled up. Yell louder when we're in our fucking backswing, you dickhead." Security quickly moved in, but the moment was already out there. Not something you expect to hear at a golf event, especially not from a caddy with cameras rolling. Still, the message was clear. Rahm's team wasn't going to let heckling slide, and despite the outburst, Rahm stayed focused, saved par, and went on to win the tournament by one shot. Sliding into number 6, quite literally. We've got a fan who went from spectator to hazard in under 5 seconds. This wasn't just inappropriate, it was hilariously tragic. It's the 2019 PGA Championship at Bethpage Black. The tension is thick, the leaderboard's tight, and the 16th hole is playing brutal. But just as the cameras are locked in on the green, something off-screen grabs everyone's attention. Suddenly, there is this fan who's clearly had a few too many rounds, and we're not talking about golf. He's teetering like a baby deer on ice, and with one awkward misstep, he lost his balance and tumbled straight into the greenside bunker. At first, the crowd gasps, then they start laughing hard. Because instead of getting up gracefully, this guy turns it into a full-on comedy routine. Every time he tries to climb out, he slides back down like it's a backyard slip and slide. Sand's flying, he's flailing, and the whole thing starts to feel like a beer commercial gone wrong. Eventually, security shows up to pull him out before he digs himself a permanent seat in there. But by then, the crowd's already lost it. It was sloppy, it was wild, and it was definitely not in the rule book. Next up, number 5. Golf has always clung tightly to its image as a gentleman's game, polished, respectful, all about discipline and tradition. But in 2019, Robert Garrigus flipped that narrative on its head with a confession that nobody, absolutely nobody, saw coming. This wasn't some tabloid scandal involving fights or broken clubs. Garrigus's crime, lighting up before tournaments. The PGA Tour slapped him with a 3-month suspension after he tested positive for marijuana. Most pros would have disappeared quietly, put out some half-hearted apology, and waited for it all to blow over. Not Garrigus. He did the complete opposite. He went public and unleashed a firestorm. Not only did he admit to smoking weed, he claimed plenty of other players were doing it too. They just weren't getting caught. Then he took it further. He flat out argued that marijuana shouldn't be banned at all. In his words, it wasn't some dangerous substance. It was no different than alcohol. He even called out the PGA Tour's policy, pointing out the hypocrisy. Painkillers like OxyContin were allowed with a prescription, but weed, legal in many states, was still treated like a felony. The tour didn't appreciate the spotlight, but the damage was done. For the first time, someone inside the ropes had publicly peeled back the curtain and revealed a version of pro golf that felt way less squeaky clean. A routine drug suspension had suddenly become a very loud, very inappropriate wake-up call. Which brings us to number 4. Well, you know the Masters. It's a tournament where even whispering too loudly can get you side-eyed. Everything's sacred, the azaleas, the green jackets, and especially the rules. So when Brooks Koepka fired an electric 65 in round 1 of the 2023 Masters, he tied for the lead, but also accidentally stepped into some very awkward territory. It happened on the 15th hole. Brooks had just hit a perfect 5-iron from 231 yards, dropping it to within 24 feet for another birdie chance. But as he handed the club back to his caddy, something strange played out on camera. Ricky Elliott, Brooks's longtime caddy, seemed to say 5 out loud, possibly to Gary Woodland's caddy, who was just steps away. And Brooks, as he took off his glove, he subtly flashed 5 fingers. Not overtly, not obviously, but just enough for the broadcast to pick up and for eyebrows to start raising. Now, if you know the rules of golf, you know this is a big deal. Giving or asking for advice between players or caddies during a round is a major no-no. It's a breach of etiquette, and in some cases, a breach of the rules. The tournament reviewed the footage, and in the end, the Masters Committee said there was no evidence of wrongdoing. No penalty. Case closed. But the internet? Not so quick to move on. Slow-motion replays, freeze frames, body language breakdowns, it all turned into one of those did he or didn't he moments that made Brooks look more like a magician pulling signals out of thin air than a guy keeping his nose clean. He kept the score, but the side-eye lingered. And for a place as proper as Augusta, even a wink toward rule-bending can feel wildly inappropriate. Yes, you've made it to our top 3. And this could have been the worst accident in golf history. Let's fast forward to the Phoenix Open, a tournament already famous for its wild, party-like atmosphere. But on this sunny afternoon, at the Tournament Players Club in Scottsdale, the chaos wasn't coming from rowdy fans at the 16th hole. No, it was coming from something far more unexpected. A child. It started innocently enough, with spectators enjoying the warm weather and strolling between holes. Then, out of nowhere, a golf cart appeared, weaving through the crowd. At the wheel, a kid who looked barely tall enough to see over the steering column, let alone control a motorized vehicle. What happened next was like watching a scene from a comedy movie, except it was terrifyingly real. The young driver somehow managed to gain control of an unattended golf cart and zigzagged through the crowd. Spectators scattered in every direction, like golf balls hit off course as the cart zoomed unpredictably through the tournament grounds. Security, who are usually ready for anything but probably not for a kid with a stolen cart, scrambled to catch up. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured, but let's be real, a kid hijacking a golf cart mid-tournament? That's not just dangerous, that's ridiculously inappropriate. For number 2, we go way back to 2005, when 2 of golf's biggest names nearly came to blows in the sacred space of Augusta National's locker room. The Masters Tournament, golf's most prestigious event, became the backdrop for an explosive confrontation between Phil Mickelson and Vijay Singh. What started as a dispute over metal spikes would escalate into something much more heated. So, what happened? It was Friday at the Masters. The tension is already thick as players battle to make the cut. Singh, playing in the group behind Mickelson, notices something concerning, or at least he thinks he does. He calls over a rules official, complaining that Mickelson's metal spikes are leaving significant marks on the pristine Augusta greens. But Instead of addressing Mickelson directly, Singh takes his grievance to officials, setting off a chain of events that would lead to one of golf's most infamous locker room confrontations. When Mickelson heard of Singh's complaints, he was absolutely furious. Not just about the accusation, but about how it was handled. After his round, Mickelson stormed into the champion's locker room, where he overheard Singh discussing the incident with other players. Uh-oh, here we go. Total chaos. Without hesitation, he marched straight toward him, getting right in his face, calling him a and challenging him to settle things outside. The usually composed Mickelson had snapped, and things were just one swing away from turning into the most inappropriate fistfight golf has ever seen. And finally, number one of the most inappropriate golf moments ever. So, on most days, the green is a place of focus. Players read putts, trust their lines, and let the moment breathe. But at the 2025 PGA Works Collegiate Championship at Whistling Straits, one player turned the putting green into a complete battlefield. The scene starts off normal enough. A group of players is finishing up, chatting casually. But then, something strange happens. One golfer lines up her short putt, and another player casually steps right into her line. Not once, but twice. Full stride, like she's walking through a shopping mall. She even pauses, looks down, and steps directly over the line again, right as the player is about to putt. The video exploded on social media. Golf Twitter went into full meltdown mode. Is she mocking her? Does she not know the golden rule? Never step on someone's line? And honestly, no one had a clear answer. Some speculated she was measuring something. Others said it was a warm-up routine gone wrong. But let's be real. This looked more like a passive-aggressive protest than a putting technique. In a game built on etiquette and unspoken respect, stepping on someone's putting line isn't just rude. It's borderline sacrilege. Oh, and now that you're still with us, we have another great golf video for you to watch right in the middle of the screen. Enjoy.